Chapter 2 Names and Surnames. Good morning, whispered Maria Isabel, standing in front of her new teacher's desk. Antonio had gone with her to the principal's office and then left to go to his own school, which was a block away. The secretary had given Maria Isabel a pink slip and then asked a boy to show her where room 17 was. And now that she was there, Maria Isabel didn't know what would happen next. The other kids had already taken their seats. Some were taking out their books and binders, while others just seemed to be waiting for class to start. Many of them were smiling and talking to each other. Maria Isabel looked up at an enormous turkey made of construction paper on the wall. Behind the teacher's desk, she started to read the names that were on each of the tail feathers: Jonathan, Eric, Michelle, Solomon, Lori, Freddie, Marta, Ricardo, Maria, Sanchez. The teacher had not looked up yet. She was making notes on a large folder where Maria Isabel could see a list of names. Maria Isabel heard quiet laughter behind her. The teacher looked up only when the noise got louder. "Why, hello," she said, giving Maria Isabel a warm smile, but it didn't seem to make Maria Isabel feel more comfortable. "So you are Maria Isabel Salazar Lopez," she replied. In Spanish, she would have added, "Para servirle," but she didn't know how to say that in English. So Maria Isabel kept quiet and handed the pink slip to her teacher. "Ah, Maria Lopez," the teacher said as she read the card. "We already have 2 Marias in this class. Why don't we call you Mary instead? Take a seat over there by Marta Perez, and I'll give you your books later." Maria Isabel quietly headed for her seat. Marta Perez looked up from her book as Maria Isabel came towards her. She had short hair and bangs. Maria Isabel lowered her eyes, and neither girl said a word. A little while later, the teacher came over holding a thick book with a green cover. The book was brand new and had a picture of a dolphin on the front. Maria Isabel wondered what the book was about and if she would be able to read it. She loved the sea and had always dreamed of seeing a real dolphin, so she opened the book eagerly. On the inside cover, the teacher had written the name Mary Lopez. Maria Isabel stared at the words. Her teacher's handwriting was so neat and pretty, it seemed almost impossible to Maria Isabel that anyone could write so beautifully. As she looked at that strange name, Mary Lopez, Maria Isabel thought about her old school books. She had always enjoyed looking at the first page of a new book. Her mother's handwriting wasn't as pretty as her teacher's, but as they both sat at the kitchen table, her mother would write Maria Isabel's name in her new book, saying, "Maria is for your grandmother, Maria, who you never knew, but would have loved you so. Isabel is for your grandmother, Chabela, who loves you so dearly. Salazar is for your father, and of course for your grandfather. Antonio Lopez is for me and for your grandfather, Manuel. You were very small when he died, but you would have loved him. All the stories he would tell." Maria Isabel was proud of being named after her 2 grandmothers. Grandmother Maria was only a name to her, but she had often gazed at the picture that her father kept and cherished. Each time they moved, it was always the last thing to be packed, wrapped up neatly so it wouldn't get damaged. Later, it would always be the first thing to be hung up on the wall of their new apartment. And she liked being named after her grandmother, Chabela, her sweet, smiling grandmother who lived in Puerto Rico and always seemed to smell of chamomile, anisette, and cinnamon. Her sweets were so tasty that everyone would come by and try some. Grandmother Chabela kept the money she made selling her sweets in a tin cookie jar and would tell Maria Isabel, "This is so that you can study someday, my child, and not spend your whole life in a kitchen." She was the same grandmother Chabela who had given her the fabric for the dress she was wearing now, streaked with blood and dirt. Mary Lopez, Mary Lopez!" Her teacher called out, her voice rising higher and higher. "Maria Isabel." That vanished like a puff of smoke, but it wasn't her teacher's shrill voice that shook her out of her daydreams, but the silence that had followed in its wake. "I'm talking to you, Mary." The teacher was now right by her desk, looking at Maria Isabel with a mix of surprise and impatience. Maria Isabel slumped down in her seat and looked at the dolphin that leaped across the cover of her book. She didn't know how to tell the teacher that she just didn't recognize herself in that strange new name.